All right, guys. Today's guest is a C-130 Navigator in the Air National Guard, a captain with Kalitta Airlines, and founder of HB Imports. Jeff, welcome to the Opportunity Hour.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here. I'm looking forward to it.
It's an interesting story how you got involved with this business. You want to take a few minutes and kind of give us the backstory?
Sure. It actually starts when I was in college. I was studying at North Central College in Naperville, Illinois, and I was studying international business in German. So I had the opportunity to spend a whole year in Heidelberg, Germany, at the university from the fall of 2000 to summer 2001. Prior to leaving, my brother and I emailed this guy who owned the website Hilsenbeck.com. And at the time, my brother wanted to buy that URL, but it wasn't available. So we both emailed him just to reach out and say, hey, we're Hilsenbecks from the United States. And I let him know that I was coming over, and his name is Marcus Hilsenbeck. So in the fall of 2000, I took a train down to from Heidelberg down to Ulm, Germany, and met Marcus. And he turns out to be my eighth cousin. And he took me out to the Hilsenbeck Brewery in the small town of Gruby in Germany. So we got a bunch of beer. It was a Friday night. We had a good time. I met his first cousins, Hartmut, and his sister Gutrin, and had a hard time keeping up with Hartmut for sure. You can definitely put him down. So it was a good experience. And then my brother came over to visit me when I was in Germany. And then my family came over to visit me. So I always took them to the brewery. And then over the years, we'd always go back. We'd buy a bunch of beer. We'd take the bottles and shove it in socks and wrap them up in our suitcases and bring it back to the States and then share it with our friends. And hopefully we didn't have any bottles break. But everyone that we ever gave a bottle to and they tried it, they said, this is great beer. You should import this beer. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So someday I'll import the beer. Fast forward a couple of years, and I started learning how to fly. And I met my future business partner. His name is Chris Queen. We met at a local flying club. So I kind of pitched him the idea about it. He's like, yeah, that could be kind of cool. And so, fast forward a little bit further. My wife, we were dating at the time, but I took her over to Germany. Go to the brewery, same thing. We meet up with Hans Dieter Hilsenbeck, and he's the brewmaster. And I sent him emails over the years saying, hey, I'd like to try this. And he's like, yeah, if you want to try importing the beer, that'd be great. So we come back and then talk to Chris about it. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So in the summer of 2014, we start HB Imports. He's he put the money into the company. I'm doing the legwork, the sweat equity side of it. And originally, we had a business plan that we were just going to import the beer and then resell it to the other distribution companies in the Chicago area. And that would have been a lot easier and simpler because there would be less customers per se. Because since we're just dealing with the distribution companies and they have the infrastructure to deliver the beer, they have the sales force to go out there and sell it. And unfortunately, at that time, with the craft beer industry, no one was interested in a standard German lager. Everything was all crazy IPAs, and that was the hot thing. So it got a lot of no's, and then it took a couple of years before I made the decision: either we're going to shut the business down, or I'm going to have to restructure it, become my own import company, or be an importer and actually get the distribution license so that I can personally go out and sell. So you have to keep in mind that there is the three-tier system between the manufacturer, the distribution company, and the retailer. All three have to be separate. That's the part of the repeal of the amendment back in the 30s. You know what I mean? So with that, the repeal prohibition.
Yep. Okay.
So that three-tier system, we were basically the importer, but we weren't the distribution company. So I couldn't legally go out and sell the beer to a retailer. So that's what I did. I got the retail or the distribution side of it, so I could actually go out there. So now it's a lot more legwork because now I have to go target each individual company, each bar, liquor store, and then go out and sell the beer. But it started bringing more luck because now I got to meet the owners and talk to the staff and then let them sample it, and they got to hear the story about how I have this very distant family over in Germany. And then Hans Dieter, I didn't mention, but he actually turns out to be my ninth cousin once removed. So it's an interesting story, and people like hearing that kind of history of finding a lost family member that is making beer. So,
And so that's the brewmaster was the ninth cousin once removed.
correct, Hans Dieter Hilsenbeck, and
Okay.
he is the 11th generation Hilsenbeck at the brewery. So the brewery started in 1728.
Wow.
His son Christoph will be the 12th generation Hilsenbeck, and he recently completed his brewmastership training in Germany. So that entails that you go to basically the university level. You spend 2 years studying how to make beer. You study all the aspects for the different strains, the bacteria, the quality of the water, the different hops, and then you start learning how to do that. And then he did internships with the mega breweries in Germany, and then he did some medium-sized breweries, some microbreweries. He came over to Urban Chestnut in St. Louis and then spent some time with Urban Chestnut as an internship. So now he's taking all that back to Germany. Now he's starting to create more styles of beer rather than your standard German beers.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have about 8 different styles of beer.
That's what they traditionally list. That's their traditional list. But they do have another side of the business where they have like more of a craft beer side. I haven't even touched on that yet. So I'm just trying to get the business going with what they've got. So
basically, you started out before you got, what's it called, a distribution license?
yeah. So technically, what I had was called a non-resident dealer license. I had only
Okay.
allowed me to import it and then resell it to a distribution company, and I could not touch the retailers.
Okay. So obviously, if you're acting as a distributor, that's just another piece of the pie that you get to pocket, right?
Correct.
Now,
Yeah.
it's probably a lot harder to scale though if it's just you, right?
That is the one of the yes. Yeah, it is a lot harder to scale since I have my other 2 jobs and that takes up some time. So when I come
Sure.
back, I still have my family, my wife and kids to take care of. So I got to squeeze in a few days a month to be able to go out and sell the beer and take samples to retailers.
So if you're importing from Germany, is the import essentially the same as the distribution, or is that a different business model as well?
It's a different business model because you can be like with my previous license, I was the importer, and that's all I can do is resell the beer to the distribution companies. So it's different. I actually have 3 different licenses to be able to do what I do. So I have a foreign import license, I have an import license, and a distribution license. Before I just had the import license and the non-resident dealer license. So by having all 3 allows me to purchase the product from the brewery, ship it over, and it comes on a cargo ship, shipped over to a warehouse in Bolingbrook, and then I get to actually sell it to bars and restaurants.
Are you utilizing a distributor in markets that you, Jeff Hilsenbeck, cannot, reach with your automobile?
Well, yes. So what I'm doing is I'm using a third party at this company called Chilled Solutions, and what is nice about this company is they warehouse the beer for me, and then they actually do the deliveries for me. So I can
Great. Okay.
So I don't have to actually go out there and do it. Occasionally, I will actually go pick up the product and take it to a customer, like the Base Club on down in Peoria. They buy the beer, and sometimes I'll bring a couple kegs. But yeah, I'll go down to the warehouse and pick it up for them, and then sell it to the Base Club.
You mentioned a business partner, Chris Queen.
Correct. Yes.
What's his role in the company?
He's more of just the financier of the company. Uh, we just did a 50-50 stake in the company,
Okay.
but he put the money into the company.
Okay.
So that's mostly when he's really not he's not actively involved in selling. I mean, if he's got some contacts, he'll send it to me, and then I'll do
Sure.
this for him.
So without getting into too deep on the financial side, what did your initial investment go to initially? Legal, product?
It was mostly getting legal.
Okay.
Yeah, it is getting the business established, getting the LLC established, the bylaws, lawyer fees that took up some money. Then also spent quite a bit of money on getting the labels made because the German labels that are used for bottles aren't legal here in the United States. So
Interesting.
because we have our just our requirements, like it has to have the alcohol percent, where it's produced. You have to have the disclosure that it's not safe for pregnant women to drink alcohol, right? So all that has to be on the label. And I had to work with the company. Hans Dieter uses a marketing company, graphics artist design as well, that makes the labels for the German bottles. So I had to work with them to make the changes for the U.S. market, and then each label has to get submitted to the government for review, and then gets approved. And then once it's approved, then we had to manufacture the labels, and then they get put on the bottles before they can ship over. So that took
So
some money too, and that took about a year to get through that whole process of getting all the
sure.
labels.
What does that conversation look like when you're talking to Hans over there in Germany and
Well,
negotiating again, we don't need to go into percentages or business model, but speaking two different languages with two different cultures, um, and dealing with two different price points probably between there and here. How did the negotiation process go? Was it, hey, we're family and it's a handshake, or was it a long and quite extensive back and forth process?
well, it was more of a handshake deal than anything. It was just, hey, you're kind of distant family, and if this is what you want to do, we can do it. He just told me these are the prices of the product that he's willing to sell it for, and if I can make it work, then we can go from there. So he's Hans Dieter. He came over a few years ago when we first started actually getting the very first shipment over, and he did actually it's probably about 3 years ago in February when he came, and did a little tour around the area, and he got to meet some of the customers and see where it's being sold. So it was kind of cool to have that. Uh, now, does that answer your question?
No, that was good. I just didn't know, because lots of times those are easy conversations. Then when you start
Yeah.
getting down into the math of it, it can get relatively complex.
Well, basically, I'm one of his customers, so he just says,
Sure.
"This is the rates that I'm selling the beer," and I buy it from him. He tries to give me the best price possible.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to buy it in bulk. I'm not buying a lot of product at the moment, but uh, most of our conversations are via email in English. But a lot of times I've written in German to him, and writing. I can write German quite well, but when it comes to understanding, he speaks a very different dialect that I have a
Sure.
very difficult time understanding.
So your background in German and international business has probably served you quite well with this endeavor.
Yes, and it's funny because most kids go through college and you might get a degree you never even touched before, and it's like I
Mm-hmm.
thought I'd never use my international business degree, flying and being in the military, but this has actually helped out quite well.
Which one of the beers is your favorite?
Ooh, I would have to say I'm still a big fan of the Brunnen beer. That's the main beer that they make. It's an unfiltered lager. That's really good. I really like their Meisterbach. That's a lager they bring out in November for the wintertime. Those are probably my two favorite. They do have a fest beer that they actually make for Easter. It's a Märzen style beer. That's really good too.
Which one's that one?
It's Osterhäsli. It's actually German for Easter bunny.
Oh, okay.
So I did import that once. It was very difficult for the Americans to say Osterhäsli because it's kind of also a regional dialect as well. So
Sure.
that, and I haven't changed any of the names. So the names are how it is over in Germany for the beer names.
So how hard is it to sell German beer in the US?
It's gotten easier over the last couple of years. There's been quite a few times when I've gone into like a bar or restaurant, and this is typically how it goes. Hey, my name's Jeff. I'm from HB Imports. I'm selling beer. Who's your beer rep? Who buys your beer? And you should walk out and introduce each other, and then say, okay, what do you have? And I tell them the story. These are the beers. And there's been a few times where I've had the buyer say, "Thank God it's not another IPA."
Oh,
because there's so many of them. And here's the thing about IPAs: it is less expensive to produce, and it's quicker because the lagering, the fermentation time is a lot shorter than compared to a lager. Now the Brunnen beer, which is quite interesting, that they lager that beer right about 0 degrees Celsius for about 8 weeks before they actually bottle it. So it's a lot longer. Whereas your ales, typically you can lager that, or not lager, but you can ferment it for about 2 weeks, and then you can actually sell it. So the Hans Dieter wants to have a lot longer lagering process for his beers, which allows it to condition, and it just tastes better, in my opinion. But when you're bringing the temperature down, you got to cool it, and that takes a lot of resources, and so that adds to the cost.
So from a marketing and advertising perspective, is there anything that you've done, for me to walk into a bar there in the Chicagoland area, that I would be like, oh, not knowing you, like if I go to Chicago, I'm going to order a Hilsenbeck beer just to be like, hey, I know a guy. How do you stand out in a crowded market per se?
That's been a challenge, honestly. One, because it's just me doing it, and I don't have the reps like some of your bigger
Sure.
breweries have that are pushing it. So marketing has mostly been through Facebook and Instagram. I have done some old traditional mailers going, but that really didn't honestly yield that much of a return.
Mm-hmm.
So best has been using Facebook and Instagram for marketing. But you're just getting the word out there, and hopefully as more people get familiar with it, they can go out and ask about it. I've had a few places contact me and try to get it, so which is nice to know that it's getting out there.
Down here in Florida during COVID, our lives are quite normal in terms of restaurants and bars being open. That's not the case for Illinois, is it?
No, things have been pretty locked down for the most part. Over the summer, it was pretty nice. I mean, things were open up. People,
because you could eat outside and
eat
stuff.
outside.
Yep.
And then, when COVID happened, we always had consistent sales increasing last year, and things were really going in the right direction. I was using another marketing company to do tastings at I don't know if you know Benny's. It's one of the big local liquor stores here. They have 30 plus locations throughout Chicago. So we were doing some tastings with Benny's, and got one in last January, right before COVID hit. And my wife and I, we did a tasting as well at Benny's. And then Chris's mother's fiance, husband, I believe, he was gonna start helping out too. And he's retired from UPS, not a pilot, but he was looking forward to doing something fun with his retirement. And I'm like, yeah, man, if you want to go out and just do tastings, that'd be great. You schedule it whenever you want. I'll pay you for it. And then COVID hit, and then it's just kind of things just kind of plummeted. Uh, Throughout the course of the year, I knew that things would probably go south again once winter and fall, winter, and everyone starts going back indoors. I was real hesitant to start purchasing a lot of beer because I don't want everything to shut down. So I kind of scaled back the business a lot last year just to ride this out, just kind of see where it's going to go. The other thing too is the cost of shipping has increased dramatically, as you can imagine. I know for Kalitta, like we're charging a boatload for our airplanes, and when you saw that how long it took just to get products, across the ocean, it was crazy. I knew at one point like Benny's it was wanting to get some delivery, and it took like 4 weeks. So the shipping was not helping.
Yep.
So the shipping costs have gone up a lot. So,
which is just cutting into your margins.
Yeah, and it's already tight as it is.
Yep.
And I just recently placed an order from the brewery yesterday to get more kegs in. And I started looking at the cost of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what I'm selling, I'm hoping I can just break even right now.
Mm-hmm. Are you able to distribute across state lines?
I am not. So so each state has their jurisdiction, and each distribution company can only operate within certain geographical territories. So, and that could even be broken down into counties and even down to the street. Like this distribution company can only work from here to here. So, but the way I'm structured, I basically said, hey, I want the whole state.
Yep. That's a bummer. I was hoping maybe we could get some down here in Florida. I was actually at World of Beer last weekend,
Yeah.
and I looked for it. Obviously didn't see it, so I guess that explains why. Yeah, I was. It'd be kind of neat if you guys could throw like an Oktoberfest party or something, sponsored by Hilsenbeck Bier, type thing.
Yeah, that would be cool.
If the world's back to normal and you do go down that path, give me a call. I'll come up and sample it. I'll sample excessive amounts of your product.
Well, the funny thing you say that is my wife and I just recently moved into an air park community.
I meant to ask about that. I saw it on Facebook. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about COVID is that it kind of made us made some decisions about what I was going to do with my career. And last year at this time, I was like, I really wanted to get to United. One for the quality of life, and I was willing to take the pay cut from Kalitta. I thought too, that'd help with scheduling, like having shorter trips, because as you might know that at Kalitta we typically do 16-day rotations.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought going to United and being 45 minutes from O'Hare, I'm like that'd be perfect.
100%.
And with COVID, it kind of realized like, wow, all my buds that fly for United, they're all hurting right now. Kalitta's doing awesome. I was like, well, maybe this isn't such a bad idea. I'll just stay here. I've got a lot of seniority. I got hired at a really good time. So it's like, well, let's just ride this out and we'll just do that. And with them, making decent money now, when we were living in a small house with the intentions of going to United and staying in a small house, well, make it a lot easier to make that pay cut. So now I'm staying here. I'm like, well, let's move. And I always wanted to live in this air park community because this is where I learned how to fly back in 2004. So we actually tried getting this same house that we're in now 2 years ago. So now I was like, all right, well, awesome, it's back on the market, let's do it. So I made that decision, and then made the decision I was going to ride it out with a guard for another 5 years. And so I signed a 4-year commitment to stay as a nav and got a signing bonus with that. and then also transfer my college benefits to my kids, and that's a great deal too. So I incurred the 4-year commitment. So yeah.
Did you buy yourself a little airplane to put in the garage over there, or what?
Well, I don't have one yet, and so back to the Oktoberfest. I think, you know what, honey, it'd be great if we could, a year from now, like in September of 2021, we should have a big party and we'll have an Oktoberfest party. So that's the goal, is that we want to have an Oktoberfest party in the hangar this fall. So
awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's probably pretty neat looking out your back window and just seeing some airplanes landing and taking off.
Yeah.
How close are you to the runway?
We're one street over, so we can't really see the runway. There's some homes that actually block the view, but in the backyard, we actually have a taxiway. If you ever look it up, it's Naper Arrow. Lima Lima 10 is the identifier.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm on Stearman Drive.
If you could get a little airplane, a little quote unquote cargo airplane, and distribute your beer from your backyard.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I was actually thinking more about just having an airplane to fly to and from Drill, because I've been driving 2.5 hours each way,
Yep.
a couple times a month for the last 15 years. It takes some time.
I'll bet. Yeah. What challenges do you see going forward with HB imports? Is it knowing that it, with the vaccine, the skies are going to clear up pretty soon, or are there other?
I hope so. I think if we get enough people getting the vaccine, then we can kind of start getting back to normal. Being able to go out without having to wear a mask, and going out to a bar and not having to stay 6 feet apart.
Yep.
I think that's hopefully maybe by the end of the year we might be at that point. It's really tough to say, and you hear about variants coming out. It's like, well, man, that just doesn't help either, if these are just as bad. So,
yep. Is there anything our network can do to help out from a marketing, sales, distribution perspective?
For right now, honestly, I think just getting the marketing out there for buying the bottles, because I have 2 beers at the Bennies, the Brunnen beer and the Dorfbräu Export. Yeah, if anybody just goes into there's 6 Bennies that I've got. It's just basically around the Naperville area, Naperville, Plainfield, Joliet, Bloomingdale, around that area. That if they go in and buy a couple bottles, that's huge, because just keeping the product moving is helpful.
Are you trying to expand beyond that, or are you happy just keeping it basically in the community, i.e. Illinois?
For right now, I just want to keep it in Illinois.
Okay.
I like to get. I do want to. I mean, there's still a lot of grounds to be done here before I get into other states.
Gotcha.
So that opens up a whole other aspect of the business, is like, who's going to run it, and who's going to be able to go out there and do the sales. And so I need to be able, to get to that point, I need to be profitable enough to be able to hire help.
100%.
But I'm just not at that point right now.
So, and that's, another thing that we like to bring up on this show, work-life balance. You mentioned 2 other jobs. Obviously you have a family. Just saw a kid come in and say hi just a few minutes ago.
Yeah. We're still doing e-learning too.
Oh, e-learning. Oh, so you teaching too. Make that 3 jobs. How do you manage the work-life balance with everything you have going on? Like, what's your day look like both at home and on the road?
It's challenging. It varies quite a bit too. When I'm on the road, I try to do a lot of my computer work, because I have time by myself, to do stuff.
No distractions.
No distractions in the hotel. doing monthly reports and sending stuff out. You kind of have to file monthly reports with the state of Illinois with how much beer has been sold. And then when I'm home, the wife is always wanting some reprieve from dealing with two kids at home, and
Yep.
especially if I've been gone for 16 days, she's like, you know what, you need to help out here. I need a break. So I told you. So Beverly, and she's been incredibly amazing with this whole endeavor. So I try to help her as much as possible and spend time with the kids because they miss dad. So my son's 8. That was Kiefer who came in, and then my daughter's Kenzie. She's 6. So life is starting to get a little bit better because today was Kenzie's. She was able to go to school for the first time.
Let somebody else babysit her.
Yeah. So it was only 2.5 hours, but she got on the bus. Today was the first day, for going back. So that's kind of a light at the tunnel, end of the tunnel, and being able to get the kids to go back to school. So Kiefer and Kenzie will be going back next week, Wednesday and Friday. So that will help a little bit with that work-life balance, because then hopefully once the kids actually get going back to school, then I can get back out and doing some sales and trying to meet with the bars and restaurants.
You're like one of the first guests we've had on here that whose job has got exponentially busier during COVID. We've had a few United pilots, Frontier pilot, flight instructors. Everybody else is kind of just, on reserve or just chilling most of the time, and their hours have been cut. But it's definitely one of those things where, kind of a blessing to be in a position where, you're on the road 16 days regardless. You might as well, make that money while it's raining. So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, because that's the one thing with being the ACMI world. You never know when it's gonna, when it's gonna be good, when it's gonna be bad. You have no clue. So, like this last summer, we were just swamped with work at Kalitta. There was overtime trips all the time, and we've been hiring pilots this last year, and we're still planning on hiring, and we're still looking at acquiring more aircraft. That's just how busy we are. So,
and I don't even see that changing even when and if the world goes back to normal, because people are so accustomed to e-commerce now. Why would you go back to the way it used to be? Because it's so much more convenient and, quite honestly, extremely competitively priced. So I have everything delivered now. I have my groceries delivered. I have my food delivered. I have whatever I want delivered. It's like the gig economy is definitely good for the consumer.
Yeah, that is true. So that was other, like, when you look at that aspect of it, that's one, like, well, that's why I probably might stay at Kalitta, because it's who would have thought that this would have been the place to stay? And even through like the pilot network and some other networking places, like I've had people randomly, I don't even know, just email me and say, hey, is there any way that you help me get on with Kalitta? I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
When I got hired, I told my friends, like, I'm going to Kalitta, and I was like, that was not the reaction I got. I was like, why are you going there?
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely, the company's completely changed in the last 4 years. It's amazing.
And I've always heard good things about Kalitta. Sounds like I don't know, a few years ago, y'all got a new contract or whatever, and some favorable work rules came along, and it sounds like the what's it called? The pilot force seemed to be quite happy with it. Like the quality of life improved almost overnight from the people I talked to that were there back in the day. Obviously, being on the road 16 days a month has its challenges, and it's not for everybody. But if you're willing to accept that as part of the commitment, I've heard nothing but good things. Obviously, you might have a different perspective, but
that's what has made the company be able to grow is getting that contract because they were able to retain the pilots, and
Yep.
by retaining the pilots, they were able to go out and acquire more business,
Yep.
and they did a lot of sales, and they were able to sell a lot. So
Yep. Good.
it's yeah, we've been very very blessed to be in the position where we are because living here in the air park community and like guys that fly for United or
Yeah.
I mean they're not in a good position right now.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Sounds like you're a busy man. I definitely appreciate the time to talk about this. It's one of those things, pilots typically love two things, beer and flying. So you're kind of in the right biz there. You have you stocked the squadron bar with Hilsenbeck beer?
and well, we don't have a squadron bar, but we do have a base club. I've put the beer in there, so that's been good.
Yep.
Yeah, and I actually had a EQP a couple weeks ago at the beginning of January, so I drove out to Michigan for training, and so I brought out 12 cases of beer, and then gave some away and sold some to some old friends out there. So
Awesome.
gave to all the schedulers because they've been working their butts off too. I'm like, man, you guys deserve it. So
Yep. Yeah, that's great. Before we wrap it up, is there anything that you wished I would have brought up or discussed that maybe I didn't?
No, I really don't think so. I mean, if anyone wants to reach out to me, they're more than welcome to. My email address is jeff@hb-imports.com, or you can follow on Facebook or Instagram at Hilsenbeck Bier USA. So,
Yep, we'll include all of that in the show notes. So it'll be just scroll down and click the link, and it'll be there. Yeah, if you need any help from me or the network or want some publicity or whatever, small but growing network and viewership, we'd definitely love to talk about you. And if you expand or beyond Illinois, let's have you on again. So that sector of the country can get to know about it. And if that Oktoberfest party materializes too,
yeah,
the Sky
I'll let you know.
Pirates would love to be there. So
Yeah,
but
it'd be good.
Yeah,
I would actually like to put a little note out there for one of my colleagues in the squadron, Evan Morris. He's one of the owners of Phase 3 Brewing here locally. So you might want to reach out to him, talk to him too. So they've been kicking butt too. They're a really good brewery, so they've got a good beer master.
Awesome. I will definitely do that. We'll be in touch after with that. So with that, Jeff Hilsenbeck, thank you for your time.